Chris Figueroa with the Project Hero through the St. Patrick's Center is still with us, and joining us now is Kimberly Beck, Social Services Director at the Salvation Army, St. Louis region. Are you hearing anything from these gentlemen that sounds familiar?
Everything rings true, everything they said, and I feel very honored to be here with all these veterans. I am a military brat, the proud daughter of a Vietnam vet, and a military spouse. So my husband served 20 years in the Air Force. And the things that they're saying just around the table as veterans are the things that I've heard from my husband, my father-in-law, my grandfather. And as a professional working with veterans, it's what I've heard.
And you've served too, let's not forget
well,
that.
Yes, I'm a military spouse.
You traveled the world.
I traveled the world with my husband. We spent 14 years overseas consecutive, 6 years in Japan, 4 years in Germany, and 4 years in England. So the stress of military life definitely impacts families and family members. So I served, and as a civilian, supporting the veterans overseas for Army Community Service and with the Services Department for the Air Force. So yes, I've served as well.
What did you make of the statement that, well, I was an officer?
You know what intrigued me was when I was working for the Army, for Army Community Service, I was the transition assistance counselor. And the officers had the most difficulty transitioning back over to the, to civilian life. So, there was a distinction between being an officer and being enlisted. And so because they were separate, I agree. He probably felt like I don't belong here. And no, they had some special issues. And I found myself working harder to help them than it was to help those who were, like he said, infantry and that, to transition back. I am so excited about hearing that there's that support and camaraderie that's helping these veterans to find the space to transition safely back over here. I was listening over in the room, and I know at Salvation Army, one of the things we pride ourselves on in our veterans residence is that 48 veterans, male and female, have a space to come and sit in our community room and share experiences. And it's one of the things that's really helping them to overcome the challenges and barriers they face. So hearing that there's been a group that has helped some of our Vietnam veterans, officers and enlisted together in the same room, not separated the way we see it, in the military, that's phenomenal. And that's what the Salvation Army works for. We want all of our veterans to be treated with dignity and find a way to create lasting change, because we know they served our country and we want to serve them and help them feel like, hey, you have the support you need. And I did laugh when I heard about the goodwill and not all help being good help, because that's true. All of those stories about you can go to the Salvation Army, they're going to hook you up and give you everything you need, and we do try to help, but yeah, some of the stories out there are pretty incredible, and not all help and not all information is accurate.
Barracks lawyers.
Yeah, yeah, the barracks lawyers.
You got that one person that knows it all.
That knows it all.
The programs.
Yeah, they owe you. They're supposed to give you $10,000.
Right.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Don't say if it's not true tonight.
Right.
Are there people, you talk about the benefits that of these conversations that these gentlemen are having, or at these activities that they've found, or these groups and these relationships they've built. Are there a lot of people that have not found it?
Yeah, you asked that question as well. And I think, Chris hit on it when he said, in the military, there's a culture that you do not seek help, because help means weakness. In fact, for the officers that, when I was working in the military, officers were much less likely to come to me for support because it was a mark against their career, even enlisted. So I'm not going to seek support from a therapist or somebody to help me because I can do this on my own. So when they get out of the military, that culture still persists for them in many ways. So some of them don't seek help. And this is particularly true really with our female vets.
What's the difference? What are the unique challenges for female vets?
For female vets, one of the things that was mentioned was, they don't even mark the box to say they're a veteran. Some of them don't feel like they're a veteran and they deserve veteran status. And female veterans, many have experienced military sexual trauma. They want to distance themselves sometimes from the military. So sometimes it's hard to find them. It's hard to, reach out. We have to ask, are you a veteran? And not just are you a veteran, did you serve in the Army, the Air Force, the Marine? You have to ask the questions to get them to finally say,
And there's
oh,
not
yes.
a lot of programs available to the females, as many as there are
Not
for the
as many.
male. With our program, we have a housing program, transitional program that's helped ran by the VA GPD program. We have a women's program for female veterans. We call it VHR. The difference is that's funded by Department of Mental Health, as to where the other one for the men is funded by the VA.
Is this a problem that's going to get worse as more women are serving?
I think the more, they talked about groups. The women are starting to attend the group therapy, and they're seeing and hearing these men talk about, oh, they've got this housing program, they've got dental, they've got, numerous other things. And the females, they don't have the same housing program. A great example is in our GPD program, our 2-year transitional housing program, the men, after they're there for 6 months, they can seek out dental through the VA. The women in the VHR program, that's not available to them because it's not funded by the help ran by the VA.
And ours is just a little bit different in that our grant per diem program is actually one of the only ones that does service women. So we have a couple of women, but there's not many.
Not as many beds.
Right, there's not as many female vets, not as many beds, but we do have female veterans in our grant per diem program, and we're happy to serve them. And now that there are a few, others are hearing and they're starting to come and inquire, and our funding is through the Veterans Administration, so they do still have access to those medical services and the other benefits that veterans have.
We've talked a lot about the space that's been created, whether it be the kind of the mental space or the relational space, but you guys have created some amazing physical space that you touched on.
Thank you.
Our team went for a visit this week, so let's take a look at what we're talking about that the Salvation Army is pulling off here in St. Louis.